NTSB officials said they found the black box on board the plane, which can help figure out the cause of the crash.
We have identified the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder. This is what is commonly referred to as a black box. We have investigators now that have located it.
This morning, stunning new footage appears to show the engine missing on the UPS cargo plane just as it crashes in Louisville, Kentucky. The plane is coming down, and you see the left engine is already gone. NTSB investigators say it detached during takeoff. That engine later found on the runway.
What might cause an engine to fall off a jetliner right after takeoff?
Well, Anderson, it's almost inescapable that you have to look at maintenance records. And really, in this case, while, it's good they found those black boxes, the real evidence, the telltale on what happened is going to be in the wreckage itself.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Stooges Bar and Grill bartender Kyla Kennedy said that the light suddenly flickered as she took a beer to a customer on the patio. I saw a plane in the sky coming down over the top of our volleyball courts in flames, she said Wednesday. In that moment, I panicked. I turned around, ran through the bar screaming, telling everyone that a plane was crashing. That's according to an article in the LA Times. Now, I've seen a couple of comments where people say they're happy to wait for the NTSB report, which will likely come out next year. Great, but then what are you all doing here? Press stop on this video right now and start waiting. Stop thinking, start waiting.
Please go. Stop smiling. It's not a joke. Please leave. The party's over. Get out.
For the rest of you critical thinkers, yes, within a day or so of the incident, we're already pretty close, I think, to knowing part of what happened and why, and it does come down to maintenance. But before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Welcome to the many of you who have subscribed. If you're finding this analysis worthwhile, please do hit the thanks button and let's get started. Now, according to the LA Times, Jeff Guzzetti, a former federal crash investigator, said a number of things could have caused the fire as the UPS plane was rolling down the runway. It could have been the engine partially coming off and ripping out fuel lines. So that's the one scenario. The engine comes off and that then rips the fuel lines. Or, according to Guzzetti, it could have been a fuel leak igniting. The fuel leak ignites. The problem is initially a fuel leak, and then that burns the engine off. In other words, the fault was either with the engine or the cracked fuel tank. Since we know there's a crack in the fuel tank, I'm not sure if it's more likely to be engine failure. Guzzetti also told the Wall Street Journal the age may play a role, but as long as any airplane is well maintained, it can last forever. And that is really the critical question. Was it well maintained? By the way, Jeff Guzzetti is a former NTSB investigator and air safety consultant. I always find it strange when people say, you don't know what you're talking about to me, when I'm often quoting and providing my opinion based to some extent on experts like Guzzetti. Does he not know what he's talking about? Because I'm quoting him. But anyway, this is the real question. Were there maintenance issues or maintenance oversights for this particular aircraft? Incidentally, I also saw a comment where someone said there are prescribed maintenance protocols for these aircraft. And so that was why the aircraft was in maintenance. And we see some of them. There's an A check, which is a few hours to overnight. That's every 400 to 600 hours. There's the B check type maintenance. It's around 1 day in duration. That happens about every 6 to 8 months. There's the C check, which takes 1 to 2 weeks, which is every roundabout 1.5 to 2 years. And we can see that what this aircraft went through wasn't an A, B, or C check. And then there's a D check, which can take several months, which happens every 6 to 10 years. And that is very rare. That is something that happens maybe a handful of times in the lifetime of an aircraft. And so someone was suggesting that the maintenance that this aircraft was undergoing was just part of ordinary, typical maintenance.
Are you fucking kidding me?
The 6 weeks that this aircraft was being sorted out in San Antonio, Texas, wasn't part of some scheduled maintenance. In the same way that there's ordinary maintenance for a vehicle, overhauling the suspension or let's say the engine drivetrain replacement, it's not a sort of morning in the shop typical day in the life of your vehicle's maintenance. It's an anomaly. It's a once in a lifetime fix, and typically this happens again, you typically sell your vehicle. In the same way, we know this aircraft had a crack in its fuel tank. That is a serious problem, a critical problem. And of course, the other issue is when this happened, basically 6 weeks before the incident. So in terms of the timeline, this is likely very critical evidence. It's a serious problem and a critical problem. According to the Wall Street Journal, the MD-11 plane was grounded in San Antonio from September 3rd through at least October 18, according to flight records. Maintenance records with the Federal Aviation Administration show that the jet needed a permanent repair to fix a crack in the fuel tank before it returned to service. Again, that's not willy-nilly just by the way maintenance. That this plane isn't allowed to fly again until this system critical issue that's been identified is permanently and decisively repaired. The question is, was it? And who signed off on it? According to the Wall Street Journal, ST Engineering owns the San Antonio shop where the plane was recently parked for maintenance. In a statement, ST Engineering said it provided airframe maintenance to the MD-11, adding that its priority is safety and that it was cooperating with the accident investigation. There's already a big clue there. Airframe maintenance. And where's the fuel tank located? I think the fuel tank we're talking about here is likely located in the left wing. After its recent stay at the repair facility, again, those are important words, recent stay. And I think this is really related to what has happened, the repairs that happened recently. Anyway, the jet maintained a busy schedule over the past month. It flew to Ontario, California and Baltimore before its final return to Louisville, according to Flight Radar 24 records. Now, one would also want to know, what was the track record? What happened? Were there any blips or glitches in terms of those flights? Were there any signs? Was anything smoking, or were there any anomalies in the aftermath to those repairs? So our primary point of focus in terms of our investigation is ST Engineering. Secondarily, I would say one has to ask whether we are dealing with a failure of the aircraft itself. Well, intertextually, what seems to be the likely answer here? According to the LA Times, the crash bears a lot of similarities to one in 1979 when the left engine, this is also a left engine, fell off an American Airlines jet as it was departing Chicago's O'Hare International Airport, killing 273 people. Here's the important part. Guzzetti, remember, he's ex-NTSB. He said that that jet and the UPS plane were equipped with the same General Electric engines, and both planes underwent heavy maintenance in the month before they crashed. That can't be overemphasized. The NTSB blamed the Chicago crash on improper maintenance. The 1979 crash involved a DC-10, and the MD-11 UPS plane is based on the DC-10. And so that is our assessment within just 3 days of the incident, although I homed in on the maintenance aspect slightly earlier than that. Meanwhile, as I say, there seem to be some bright sparks here that seem to think the way to go here is to start thinking about this next year when the NTSB report tells you the answer. True crime rocket science likes to turn around investigations a little quicker than that, and we use certain techniques. We've used one right here that we often use in true crime, dealing with the timeline and also dealing with intertextualities. And whether you think it's outside our field of expertise or not, we have a pretty good track record at this sort of thing. We nailed the cause of the Titan sub. The Bayesian report is more complicated, but is still pending. But that was also, is that crew error, or is it a structural problem, or is it a combination? And then Air India looks like it wasn't the fault of the plane. And that was our assessment before the final report as well. You are welcome to hold a report card to our assessments over time and see how well we do, including in this case. The next step, I feel, is analyzing the data from the black boxes, including getting a sense of what the pilots said in their final moments and what the instruments showed just before the crash. According to the Wall Street Journal, investigators said they had located the aircraft's flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, known as black boxes. We played that at the beginning of this video. And they would be taking the devices to D.C., to Washington, D.C. for analysis. And when we have those details, we'll be sharing them with you. Well, I'm not going to take it further than that. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.